Trail talk time. Out on another beauty of a trail. Just breathing in that fresh prana. Lovely day out today. Just vibing with the squirrels. And today I wanted to talk about how to turn guilt into forgiveness. You know, I'm sure we all have an experience in our past that maybe we wish that we, could go back and change. Maybe we're holding on to some guilt for something that we've done in the past. And I don't think that we need to hold on to that, right? I don't think it's healthy to hold on to guilt. If we make a so-called mistake in our life, it was for a reason. And everything in our life is teaching us something, right? So if you feel, bad about doing something and you feel an initial sense of guilt, I think that's a good thing, right? It shows you, you might not feel right about the situation and maybe you don't want to do that again, right? So that initial feeling of guilt is very helpful. It's teaching you, everything in life is teaching us what it is that we want out of life and who we want to be. And so if we get that, initial bad feeling, well, that's fine then. We can, learn from that, and we have to learn from our mistakes, right? And as long as we, don't make that same mistake again, then it's a beautiful thing. Just like a child, right? A child or a baby makes countless so-called mistakes each and every day. But we don't hold it against them, right? We forgive them. We must forgive ourselves because we're still stumbling through life just like children. There's no magical point where we become perfect somehow, right? Life is about this continual process of growth and learning so that we can keep on evolving. So the learning never ends, and we have to allow ourselves to make mistakes just like a child does, right? We're gonna stumble and fall. When a child's just starting to crawl, they're falling on their face, and eventually, they just keep getting up and keep trying again. They're not sitting there like, oh man, holding it against themselves for falling. I shouldn't have fallen. Right? They continue on. And eventually they stand and they start to walk, and they'll fall countless times trying that. And then eventually they'll keep trying, they'll keep at it. And they'll get so good that their walking will turn into jogging and running and jumping and so on and so on. I think this is a beautiful metaphor for the way that we can live our lives, right? Be as a child that's just learning how to walk. Realize that we'll stumble along the way sometimes, but each of those moments where we stumble or mistakes, I really feel that there's, in a way, no such thing as a mistake, right? It happened for a good reason, and we can now utilize that lesson that we've gotten. And so as long as we, get the lesson, that's how we remove the guilt. We say, wow, we actually benefited from making that so-called mistake because now we're wiser. We're more wise because of that. We know more from that experience. And I see each and every experience as a stepping stone, right? So if we can learn to see our so-called mistakes as just stepping stones, then we can see, wow, they've actually led us to a higher level each and every time we've made these so-called mistakes, it's given us a higher vantage, a greater perspective of life. And that's how we continue to grow wise. We don't know until we know, right? We're all at a certain point of consciousness at this point in our life. And every single experience that we have is just widening our view, expanding our consciousness. And so just as we must forgive ourselves, for all of these mistakes or so-called mistakes that we've made in our past, we must forgive others as well. Forgiveness is such a beautiful thing. Maybe somebody has done us wrong in our past and hurt us and caused us pain or betrayed us in some way. And it can hurt. It can definitely hurt. We can hold a lot of pain in our heart, but what feels best is to allow ourselves to remove that from our hearts and to forgive. And even if not for them, just for us, for our own well-being. It's not healthy to hold on to a grudge and hold on to negative emotions in our heart, in our body, in our mind. We must allow ourselves to let that go and to forgive the past completely. Eckhart Tolle said in his book, The Power of Now, something about forgiveness and talking about just forgiving the past completely, right? That way we can fully reside in the present. We're not continually, stuck reliving the ways of our past. We forgive our past and we let it go and we realize it's done, it's over. We're in a new era. We're in this freshness of the flow of life all the time. But we can't experience that flow, that freshness, if we're clinging on to the past, right? Then we're not flowing, we're stuck. And nobody wants to feel stuck in life, right? So forgiveness is the most beautiful thing because it simply allows us to let it all go, let our past go entirely, and flow in this beautiful, everlasting presence. And as I said, we may continue to stumble and make so-called mistakes, but we have to allow ourselves to do that. We have to be, trusting of ourselves enough to continue moving forward in life, because that's what guilt does. It holds us back from trying new things because we don't trust ourselves. We think we're going to make the same mistakes again. But if we can see, the lesson from those mistakes, then we'll realize we don't have to make them again. We're wiser than we were before. We have a greater perspective now. And so that can actually build our trust, build our confidence in ourselves and say, I'm a better person now because of this, right? And, realizing that our mistakes don't define us. They don't define who we are. They're simply, little moments, little flashes in time, little instances in our life. But sometimes we allow them to, hold such a great weight on us as if they must define us and define who we are and our character. They'll always be a part of us, all of these experiences that we've had, but they don't necessarily define who we are, right? We're the ones that will continue on and that witness all of these changes and shifts, and we're seeing it all. And so these moments will come and go, and we have to let them go, right? And see each experience as a learning experience, and be humble as a child, and be open to learning and growing, and say, you know what, that's okay. I made a mistake. I realize that. I'm humble enough to admit it, right? That's why I said I think it's good that if you feel, some type of guilt or remorse at first, then that's probably a good thing. It shows you, the consequences of our actions. And that's just it, If we can just take that sort of scientific look at it and say, yes, I've done something and there was a consequence to my action, and look at it in a more objective light, then we can release, our personification of it, and just simply, get as much data as we can from those experiences so that we have more to work with now. And then we'll see that each and every moment in our life has been for our greatest benefit. Even if it was something that's really hard to look at within yourself, if you feel ashamed or guilty of it. But we all have those moments, and we must continue to move on and grow in our life, or else we'll be stuck in our past forever. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share for today. I hope it was helpful. And that's just the way, that I've been seeing my life, looking back at all the so-called mistakes that I've made growing up. And, I realized that it was all meant to be. It was all meant to happen. It all happened to continue to teach me something more and help me to grow more wise. And so that's how I'm seeing all of those moments, as just stepping stones leading me to a higher vantage point each and every time. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for every experience that I've had and every so-called mistake that I've made. So yeah, that's it for today. Have an amazing day. Peace and limitless love.